A fresh dusting of snow blanketed the streets of Boston, the crisp winter air frosting the city in a hazy white. People on the sidewalks pulled their coats tighter, their steps quickening as they hurried home. Amidst the bustling crowd, a solitary figure stood still. Julian drew his camel-colored coat closer, the phone in his pocket vibrating insistently. He retrieved it slowly, his breath misting in the cold. His mother's voice, sharp with accusation, came through the line as soon as he answered. She had heard from his Aunt Carol that he had turned down the latest man she'd introduced him to. Julian was not surprised by the call, having just left the coffee shop where the awkward blind date had taken place. He tilted his head back slightly, a trace of frost clinging to his long eyelashes. A sense of weariness settled in his eyes as he explained that it was simply a matter of incompatibility, not an outright rejection. His mother was not appeased. She retorted angrily that the man had seemed quite taken with him, but that Julian's attitude had been dismissive. She reminded him of his age, 27, and the growing need for him to settle down. The family company, she insisted, would eventually need his leadership. At the mention of the company, Julian's posture stiffened. The knuckles of the hand holding his phone went pale. He stated quietly that she already knew he had no interest in managing the business. This admission fueled his mother's frustration. She said it was true he wasn't interested in the company, nor in getting married. The only things that seemed to hold his interest were the cats and dogs he cared for. She questioned if he even cared about his own parents. Julian's tones softened at her anger, assuring her that wasn't what he meant. Sensing his concession, his mother's anger subsided into a weary sigh. She told him that while she could overlook his disinterest in the business, his personal life was another matter. If he refused to find a partner who could help manage things, how could she and his father ever rest easy, knowing he was alone? The weight of their concern pressed down on him, a heavy love he couldn't find the words to refuse. His mother then delivered her ultimatum. If he didn't bring a boyfriend home for Christmas this year, he shouldn't bother coming back at all. A resigned smile touched Julian's lips, his eyes full of a quiet helplessness as he murmured that she was asking for the impossible. The line went dead before he could say more. She had hung up. Julian sighed, pocketing the phone. A biting wind swept down the street, chilling him to the bone. The color drained from his face, leaving his fair complexion looking almost translucent. He warmed his hands with his breath before pulling a key fob from his bag. Across the street, the lights of a black Tesla flashed. As he walked toward it, his mother's words echoed in his mind. The family was well known in Boston, their wealth spanning several industries. He was, for all intents and purposes, a rich kid. But his passions had always leaned toward animals, not boardrooms, leaving him single at 27 and subject to his mother's relentless matchmaking. He slid into the car, the engine humming to life. With his mother's ultimatum replaying in his head, he drove with a heavy heart toward the pet store he owned. The car pulled up to a charming storefront with a sign that read The Perfect Cup Cafe. It was his sanctuary. The top floor was for grooming and pet supplies, while the ground floor was a cafe that housed several rescue cats, their presence a draw for customers. It was the lunch hour and the cafe was quiet. Chloe, one of his employees, was dangling a feathered wand for a small kitten. The other, Maya, was stringing fairy lights and hanging ornaments along the walls, making the space feel festive. Hearing the door chime, Chloe looked up. Her face lit up when she saw Julian, and she ran over, abandoning the kitten. She immediately wanted to know all about the blind date, her questions tumbling out in an energetic rush. She asked if the man was tall, if he was handsome, if it had gone well. Julian gently disentangled himself from her grasp, a faint smile on his face as he told her it hadn't gone well. Chloe, accustomed to his string of failed dates, wasn't particularly surprised. She noted that he had been on more than a dozen this year alone. She leaned in conspiratorially, lowering her voice to ask if perhaps he'd had his heart broken by a man in the past. Julian's smile faded slightly as he shook his head, about to explain, but Maya interjected from across the room. She put down a box of tinsel and remarked playfully that Chloe hadn't figured it out yet. She pointed out that no blind date could possibly succeed when it was over in less than 30 minutes. The boss, she declared, clearly didn't want to be on them in the first place.
Julian shrugged, à fond smile returning.
He picked up the cat toy Chloe had dropped and began to tease a small orange tabby. He admitted that Maya was right. It was all just to appease his mother. He confessed that he was not the marrying type. Chloe sighed dramatically, lamenting what a waste it was for someone so handsome to remain single. Julian's lips curved, but he offered no reply. As the two young women went back to decorating, Julian watched the cheerful holiday atmosphere fill the room. He realized with a jolt that it was already December, and Christmas was fast approaching. His employees had worked hard all year. He decided to change the subject, announcing that he planned to give them an extra week of paid vacation for the holidays so they could go home early. Their faces lit up with surprise and gratitude. Maya then voiced a concern, asking who would look after the animals if they were both gone. Julian reassured them that he would be staying in Boston and would come in to take care of everything. He explained with a wry, helpless smile that his mother had just forbidden him from coming home for Christmas without a boyfriend. It seemed, he said, that he would be spending the holiday with his small, furry dependents. Chloe's expression was full of sympathy. Maya, however, had a different thought. She pointed out that since his family was so close, going home should be simple. She then mentioned the trend of hiring a +1 for events. She asked if he couldn't just rent a boyfriend to take home and satisfy his mother. Julian looked up, a flicker of confusion in his eyes. He hadn't known such a service existed. Chloe confirmed it enthusiastically, and Maya added that with the holidays coming up, it was a booming business. She even thought there was a place that offered such services over in the Sterling Tower Plaza. The idea took root in Julian's mind. He had no desire for a real relationship. This was purely a logistical problem. The thought of solving it completely with a simple transaction was undeniably tempting. Later that evening, after closing the shop, Julian decided to investigate. The Sterling Tower was only a 10-minute walk away. After feeding the cats and filling their water bowls, he prepared to leave. The sky had darkened, but the falling snow gave it a soft, diffused glow. He wrapped a light gray scarf around his neck and stepped out into the cold. At that same moment, high up in an office in the Sterling Tower, the lights were bright. A lavish crystal chandelier hung over a plush wool carpet, and a minimalist desk was positioned before a floor-to-ceiling window. Two men sat inside. Mark tugged playfully at his own tie as he teased his friend across the desk. He remarked that he hadn't seen him back in Boston since high school and wondered what investment opportunity was so important it had finally drawn him back. The other man set down a file and lifted his gaze. His tailored suit gave him an air of refined elegance. A faint smile played on Nathan's lips as he replied casually that his family's East Coast operations had expanded as much as they could, making a move into the Boston market a logical next step. Mark, a friend of many years, knew this was only part of the story. He leaned forward, a knowing look in his eye, and asked if his return didn't have more to do with a certain someone. Nathan simply raised an eyebrow, his silence a form of confirmation. Mark sighed at his friend's persistence, remarking on how Nathan had come rushing back to Boston the moment he'd heard the man was still single. He marveled that after all these years since graduation, the one that got away still had such a hold on him. A distant look entered Nathan's eyes. After a moment, he said in a low voice that no one had ever compared. Mark quickly offered some encouragement, reminding him there would be plenty of opportunities now. He asked how long Nathan planned to stay in the city. Nathan replied that the project inspection would take about 2 months. Mark thought that was more than enough time to reconnect with old classmates and pursue his personal agenda. Nathan, thinking of the work ahead, merely said they would see. He picked up a portfolio, his attention returning to the internet company he was in the process of acquiring. Mark, bored, wandered over to the window. His gaze drifted down to the street below, and he suddenly saw a familiar figure. He did a double-take, then rushed back to Nathan's desk, pointing excitedly out the window. He urged his friend to come and look. Nathan didn't even look up, asking what was so important. Mark physically pulled him to the window, insisting he look at who was across the street. Nathan's expression froze as he followed Mark's gesture. Against the warm yellow glow of the streetlights and through the gentle curtain of falling snow, a figure came into focus. He hadn't changed much, though the boyishness of his youth had been replaced by a more mature, reserved composure. He clutched the gray scarf at his neck, his chin buried in the soft fabric against the cold. Delicate snowflakes dusted his dark hair. He looked nervous, taking a deep breath and pacing back and forth in front of a storefront before finally gathering the courage to go inside. Nathan's eyes were fixed on the figure. It was Mark who first noticed where he had gone. He squinted at the sign on the building and exclaimed in disbelief. It was an agency called The Perfect Date Experience. The idea of renting a companion felt intensely awkward. Julian hesitated outside for a long time before finally stepping through the door. The interior was sleek and modern, with pink and chrome accents and framed photos of handsome young men lining the walls. He kept his head down as he approached the front desk. A receptionist with a practiced smile greeted him. Julian slowly raised his head, an uncharacteristic blush coloring his cheeks as he returned the hello. The receptionist's eyes widened slightly in surprise. The man before her was arrestingly beautiful, with a cool, distant quality that made him stand out. Their agency had many attractive men, but few possessed such an innate elegance. She assumed he was there for a job. Julian looked momentarily confused by her question. He shook his head and explained in a calm, gentle voice that he was interested in learning about their daily boyfriend rental service. The receptionist, surprised again, apologized profusely and handed him a brochure. She asked what type he was looking for, explaining that the booklet contained their profiles and photos. She offered her contact information, telling him she could forward the details of his chosen companion, as most were currently on assignment. They could arrange the specifics over the phone. Julian added her as a contact, his expression tense. He felt deeply uncomfortable flipping through the brochure, the men's faces displayed like products in a catalog. Impatiently, he pointed to a random photo without getting a clear look at the man's face and stated that he would do. The receptionist glanced at his selection and commented on his excellent taste, informing him that he had chosen their most popular client. She quoted a price of $500 a day and asked if that was acceptable. If so, they could arrange a meeting. Julian nodded his assent. After confirming the details, he was told he could meet the man first and choose someone else if it wasn't a good fit. Julian, merely wanting someone to placate his parents, didn't have high standards. He said a polite goodbye and left. As he walked away, The receptionist muttered to herself how strange it was that a man that handsome would need to rent a boyfriend. She turned to her computer to log the client information. Just as she was about to forward the contact details to Julian, a low, magnetic voice spoke from above her. "Excuse me." She looked up from her phone into a pair of deep, intelligent eyes. The man before her was impeccably dressed, his features sharp and captivating under the soft lighting. She felt a flutter of excitement. It was her lucky day to encounter two such stunning men. This one radiated a mature, confident energy. She stammered slightly as she asked how she could help him. Nathan placed a hand lightly on the counter, his manner perfectly courteous. He asked if he might inquire about the business the previous gentleman had been there for. The receptionist, guessing he might be a friend of Julian's, smiled and told him that, of course, the man had come to rent a boyfriend. Nathan's fingertips tapped lightly on the counter. A thoughtful expression crossed his face as he asked if she could tell him which one he had rented. The receptionist politely refused, citing client privacy. Seeing his expensive attire, however, she sensed a potential high-value client and ventured to ask if he was also there to rent a companion. Nathan chuckled softly. He said no, he wasn't. His gaze fell on a now hiring sign to the side, and he stated slowly that he was there to apply for a job. Just then, the door opened and Mark rushed in, slightly out of breath. He complained that Nathan was moving too fast, that he'd barely had time to finish his call before Nathan was gone. He looked around and asked where the other man was. Nathan replied concisely that he had already left. Mark was surprised that after all the effort to come to Boston, Nathan had let his long-lost crush walk away so easily. Nathan looked thoughtfully at the recruitment advertisement. He assured Mark that he hadn't. He turned back to the receptionist and, gesturing to Mark, announced that his friend here wished to book every single one-day boyfriend in their agency, except for himself. He asked how the fee for such a service would be calculated. Mark just stared, utterly bewildered. When Julian arrived home, he received a message from the agency. He opened the door and was immediately greeted by his cat, a fluffy Persian named Leo, who rubbed affectionately against his legs. Julian bent down to scratch the cat's belly, promising him a can of his favorite food. He hung his scarf on the coat rack and played the voice message from the receptionist. Her voice was apologetic. She explained that the companion he had selected was fully booked for the foreseeable future. She asked if it would be convenient for her to recommend someone else. Before Julian could reply, a second message came through. A cute emoji of a tearful kitten with the word "so sorry." He was amused. He opened a can of food for Leo and typed back that it was fine. She could just send another recommendation. The receptionist replied immediately, apologizing again, and sent a new contact card. Julian sent a friend request, which was accepted almost instantly. The contact's profile picture was a single, elegantly written calligraphy character. Julian, new to this, hesitated, unsure how to begin the conversation. He typed and deleted several opening lines. Before he could decide, a message popped up from the other person. "Hello. I believe I'm your intended boyfriend." The word boyfriend made Julian's cheeks feel warm. He typed back a polite reply, asking when would be a good time to meet. The response was immediate. He was available whenever it suited Julian. Julian was impressed by the professionalism. He explained the situation. His family was pressuring him, and he needed someone to bring home for Christmas to meet his parents. The rental period might be longer than usual. This time, there was a pause before the reply. Julian sighed. He knew taking someone home to meet the family was a difficult gig, involving long days and intense scrutiny from relatives. He began typing again, offering to pay triple the usual rate and saying it was okay if the man didn't want to do it. But before he could send it, a new message arrived. "I don't mind. I'll follow your lead." Julian paused, a strange feeling stirring within him. There was an almost doting quality to the simple words. Shaking his head to clear his thoughts, he quickly finalized the plan, suggesting they meet at the Left Bank Cafe at 3 o'clock the next afternoon. A moment later, a 5-second voice note appeared. Julian hesitated before pressing play. A low, casual chuckle filled the air, the voice smooth and sexy. "See you tomorrow, boyfriend." The man's voice was like a cello, rich and resonant. Julian felt his face flush. This rented boyfriend, he thought, was certainly a professional. The next day, Nathan stood before a full-length mirror in his hotel suite. He adjusted his cuffs, his expression focused. Dressed in a bespoke suit, his dark hair perfectly styled, and an expensive watch on his wrist, he looked ready for a high-stakes business meeting. But then he paused. Was this too formal? He wanted to make a good impression, but his current role was that of a temporary boyfriend. Such an expensive outfit was at odds with the persona of someone who needed to rent out his time for money. He had to play the part convincingly. After a moment's hesitation, he unfastened the watch and tossed it onto the nightstand. He shed the suit jacket and tie, leaving him in a simple white button-down shirt. He undid the top 2 buttons, musing his hair slightly. The sharp, corporate edge softened into a look of casual confidence. On the table beside him lay his signed employment contract with the perfect date experience. And next to it, in a silver frame, was a photograph of a smiling, high school-aged Julian in a blue school uniform, holding a chubby orange cat. Julian arrived at the cafe 10 minutes early, a habit of his. He ordered an Americano and waited by the window. At a few minutes to 3, the cafe door opened. Julian looked up as Nathan walked in. The man paused at the entrance, his eyes scanning the room. His white shirt was casually unbuttoned at the collar, giving him an air of relaxed confidence. Their eyes met, and a spark of recognition seemed to pass between them. Nathan walked over to the table, a slight smile on his lips. He extended a hand, his voice calm and steady.
"Hello, I'm Nathan."
Julian, realizing this must be his temporary boyfriend, shook his hand. "Julian." The touch was brief but firm. Nathan sat down opposite him, and an awkward silence fell between them. Julian studied the man across from him. His facial features were sharp and well-defined, and he possessed a commanding presence that naturally drew attention. It was easy to see why he would be a popular choice at the agency. In fact, Julian thought $500 a day seemed like a bargain. Nathan noticed Julian staring. He tilted his head, a playful glint in his eyes. "So," he asked, his voice low, "do I pass the inspection?" Julian was startled, caught in the act of observing. Heat rose to his cheeks. Very satisfied, he managed to say. He quickly steered the conversation back to the matter at hand, reminding Nathan that he was being hired to deal with his parents over the holidays. He explained that the request was unusual because it would require him to come home with him for Christmas, and offered to pay 3 times the salary for the trouble. He watched Nathan's reaction, worried he might refuse. Nathan simply replied that it didn't matter. Julian elaborated, explaining that it would involve staying for several days, possibly even sharing living spaces. At the thought of this, a flicker of something unreadable crossed Nathan's face, but he quickly masked it, raising a hand to hide the slight upward curve of his lips. He stated concisely that it was no problem. The waiter brought Nathan his coffee. With more than 2 weeks until Christmas, Nathan asked if there were any other arrangements Julian wanted to make in the meantime. Julian was confused, asking what else was needed. Nathan explained patiently that to be convincing in front of his parents, they would need some time to get to know each other. He suggested that some prior contact would be beneficial. Julian realized he was right. If they were strangers, his parents would see through the ruse immediately. They needed a backstory, a shared history. He looked at Nathan and concluded that they needed to learn each other's preferences to create a believable love story. He assumed that, for Nathan, more business was always welcome. To avoid wasting his time with an irregular schedule, Julian suggested simply renting him from that day until the end of the year. He said he would contact him whenever he was free. Nathan immediately disagreed, telling him he could just call anytime. Julian waved a hand dismissively, saying he couldn't do that. Nathan leaned forward slightly, a smile playing on his lips. "You're paying me triple my salary," he said smoothly. "I think I can spare the time." Julian met his dark, intense gaze. Seeing his determination, he nodded in agreement. They chatted for a while longer, the initial strangeness between them dissipating. Julian, who was typically reserved, found Nathan's polite and controlled demeanor easy to be around. After an hour, they decided to call it a day. Nathan signaled for the waiter. "Check, please." Julian quickly protested, saying he would get it. As he reached for his wallet, a warm hand covered his, gently but firmly holding it in place. "I'll pay," Nathan said. It was a simple gesture of good manners, a small way to leave a good impression. The waiter, sensing the dynamic, simply smiled.